Can you believe it? We did a year with cheap sports cars and we're at the end.
Now is when we tally up everything about our favorite trips, the favorite things we did with these cars, and the most surprising things too, and plus we're going to reveal what's next for us.
You're watching Everyday Driver. We make a TV show, podcast,
and YouTube channels helping you find a car you'll love.
This is our second cheap car challenge, and with the help of Auto Tempest, we're doing a year of adventures in $7,500 sports cars.
Subscribe so you don't miss a thing.
So many of you write to us here on YouTube or send us an email or write to us for the podcast and just say, I want a cheap sports car and I can't buy one. That was the whole point here. Is we could have bought a Miata and a Boxster. Yes, we could have. We wanted to buy oddballs. That resulted in these cars. It started off with a budget of under $7,500. I found this BMW Z4 in Phoenix, Arizona for $7,000 and drove it home.
Thanks to Auto Tempest, I found the SLK in Florida lurking, and I put it on a truck and shipped it to Utah in the middle of a hurricane. It survived, and then we drove both these cars all year long. So we have to talk about what was our favorite trip this year. What was the favorite things we did? And hopefully you've seen all the videos that we produced about everything that we could think of to put these cars through. When we got both of these cars, we immediately took them on an almost 1,200-mile road trip to Colorado. I still look at that trip as one of the best things that we did with these cars. It still stands out as one of my favorites.
And that includes two of the best driving roads in western Colorado. Both were covered in one trip. There's two different videos for both of those. We've hoped you've seen them. As you probably also saw, we drove these all winter. That meant not only we'd buy winter tires, but we actually showed you the difference between the all seasons we started with, but also the full winter tire Blizzaks. Well, we actually changed tires in the parking lot to show you all seasons versus winters, but it was informative even for us.
Well, after that, we decided we wanted to teach manual transmission driving to two young drivers, and we found Sophie and Travis. Travis came in from Wisconsin, and Sophie was local. And so we put Sophie in the Z4 with Todd, and we put Travis in the SLK with me, and it kind of fit because his dad owned an earlier SLK as well. But we taught both of them to drive manual transmission. That's what these are for. That was also a fun episode in this very parking lot. Midway through the year, we kind of marveled to ourselves that they were still running. So we decided we had to take them out to our local track, Utah Motorsports Campus. Not only did we put them on track, but we also drag raced them hard. While on track, it was an open session. Everybody could bring any kind of car they wanted. I got passed by pretty much everything in the SLK, which is fine. But then there was this Aventador that passed me. I finally waved him by, and then a Miata went by, and then the Aventador blew up its engine on track. And then we went and drag raced these cars and drove home while the Aventador was being loaded on a flatbed trailer. So they still ran after we beat on them.
And they continue to run, and that was why when we got near the end of this year, we did a piece we hope you've seen. We thought, all right, let's talk about the cars we didn't buy, because here we chose the oddballs on purpose, but taking our same parameters, which was rear-wheel drive, manual transmission under $8,000, had to be a two-seater and had to be less than 25 years old. And as a result, we found an 8-car chute. You've probably seen it. We took 8 cars that all fit those parameters. We cut that down to 5 cars that included ours across the board. It was amazing to put all those cars together. We loved doing that piece, and in the midst of it, we kind of wrapped up our general experience driving these cars.
I haven't liked this car drag racing. I haven't liked it on track. But at 6/7 tenths, the corner transitions are almost as good as the other 4. But there is personality, and the fact that it has just run is actually something. It's also scary as far as what I will have to do when things break. Well, this car is definitely going to need things, and I'm still doing the deferred maintenance and passing this along to the next owner. But still, it runs. And if you're just more into cruising, you still want an inexpensive sports car, you cannot overlook the SLK. I still think this generation is the best looking of all the SLKs. And the manual is superb. As a matter of fact, I think it's among the best, if not the best, feeling and shifting manual. There's so much goodness here. The chassis itself that could have been, and I feel glimmers of that through these corners.
What makes this car fun is long, fast sweepers. It's not great in really tight stuff, But long, fast sweepers where you can hear the engine howl and you can work your way up through the gears, you start to settle into what this car does best. Easy to drive quick. You just have to get used to the fact that one of your 5 senses, you know, the one you count on, the steering wheel, that one's mute. But everything else is really good. It runs, and it runs well. All the electrics even work. Well, with one exception. If I put the passenger side down with this window switch, I have to put it up with that window switch. Otherwise, great. What I've got here is a better car than most people realize. It's a car that has grown into its strengths.
So now the favorite adventure. It was that road trip because we set off almost a year ago now when it was fall colors, the road was amazing, and the whole point was it doesn't matter what car you bring to the $1 Million Highway or any of your favorite driving roads. We put the tops down because they still worked at that point.
They did,
good news. And we just went, and it was so cathartic. Of course, we wished for our Lotus and Porsche. We wanted those cars, but nevertheless, it was so great, and I still have fond memories of that.
There was no preciousness here. And so we could take big road trips, we could beat on the track, but I loved teaching manual transmission. And I also am thrilled that we came back around to actually gather the things we didn't buy to see where we screwed up.
And the biggest surprise for me was that they kept running. I came into this prepared for us to spend money on these cars. It seems like we kind of got away on our last challenge, the big sedan challenge.
Yeah, we did.
Where we did put some money in, but there was nothing really catastrophic. I was kind of expecting that and ready to come clean with everyone and just say, all right, German sports cars, yeah, they're going to cost you a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They just ran. We relied on them. They became our go-to cars in the winter.
I have to say the biggest surprise for me with the Z4 specifically was the fact that it has no steering feel, which I have beat on for a year, but something about getting to know this car, I got past that. Now I love steering feel, I like lightweight, I want to have steering information, but the car was endearing enough, especially because of that engine, that over time, once I learned that it's not going to tell me anything through the wheel, I learned how to drive it, and it just became something that every time I was in it, I had fun. The engine howling, and I honestly had this thought, and it's going to be controversial. Everybody loves the S2000. The S2000 has gone up so much in value, it didn't even count for our cheap sports car challenge at the end. But the thing is, I think for most people's driving around a city, occasionally going to a fun road, probably never going to a racetrack, I'd like to have a 2-seat convertible that's fun to drive. I think the car you want instead of the S2000 is the Z4.
Do you?
I think it is a great find that is underappreciated, and as you said, it ran. Who knew?
Total mileage for the SLK, just over 4,000 miles. Total cost, we're just under $9,000. Bought it for $6,500. Of course, you got to factor in the shipping cost and the new tires and wheels, and of course these additional all-season tires. But then it was just an oil change and wiper blades. The old wiper blades just fell off, and the wipers were scratching the windshield. So I just bought new wiper blades. That was it. It was great.
I can't believe how well the Z4 did. I bought it kind of knowing people's BMW horror stories again. We'll see. And I did have that catastrophic coolant failure in the middle of a drive one day, and I just thought, this is how it begins. Because it was the beginning of winter, and I thought, this is the first of many. I really had that thought. I was worried. It was like, if we'd had the car like 2 months, and it was the first big cold snap, and the thermostat housing broke. I mean, the plastic completely failed, and the hose failed, and the coolant was everywhere.
It was used to Arizona.
Absolutely.
It didn't know Utah at all. What is this cold weather?
I did. I thought that was the beginning of the end. I thought this is going to do this all the time. After I got that fixed, it's about $500. After I got that fixed, it just ran. It was the most reliable car I've ever had on the coldest Utah mornings. It would be like, fire up, let's go. What are we doing? I can't believe that. Overall, with tires and with maintenance, I spent about $3,500, which isn't nothing, but you add that to the $7,000 cost of this car, it makes it just over $10,000. And you know what? For something I thought was going to be a horror story, I don't think that's that bad. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, aren't these convertibles, why aren't the tops down? It's because the tops on both of them are currently broken. That's something that we didn't fix.
But now it's time for a new challenge. Since these cars are going away, we're going back in time. We have gone back to the cars that really kind of got us into cars, even though we both grew up loving cars.
Yes.
So these are the 2 cars that we each owned when we started the show.
The Porsche 928 and the Nissan 300ZX, these were pivotal cars for us.
These are the cars that kind of got us into the love of driving.
So here they are back. We haven't owned either one for a decade, which means we've driven a lot of other cars since then. How are these? Plus, it's the Radwood era stuff. It's the stuff that everybody is talking about right now. We are so excited for having a year with these cars. You will not believe some of the road trips and stuff we have planned. Make sure you're subscribed because we have great stuff coming up starting next month with these two cars.
Be sure to use the URL autotempest.com/everyday so they know that we sent you when, of course, you're looking for these two or you're looking for your own cheap car challenge. And also thanks to Power Stop Brakes, to both of them for sponsoring the entire Cheap Sports Car Challenge. But we're off to a year of new adventures in these two.
Search using our cheap sports car rules on Auto Tempest.
Hit the link in the video description and tell us in the comments what you found.